Who's afraid of generative AI? Hi, I'm Dr. Samuel Allen Alexander, mathematician and philosopher, still here, and I'm reading the article, Who's Afraid of Generative AI? Ethical Considerations for Mathematics Instructors by Kira Hamman, Gizem Karaali, and Lew Ludwig, published in 2025 in the notices of the AMS. About a year ago, and AI has progressed significantly since then, so that's worth keeping in mind. The authors write, since November 2022, when ChatGPT made its first splash onto the global scene, a new conversation has begun. The three authors of this article have been thinking out loud about the possible effects of this new technology around the world, and in particular, in our backyard, the world of mathematics instruction at the collegiate level. Other folks have thought and written a lot about artificial intelligence and its possible impact on mathematics as a research discipline. See, for example, the articles in issues 2 and 3 of volume 61 of the Bulletin of the AMS. Also, there have been a handful of visual expositions of how these new technologies actually work, from the general audience expositions in mainstream outlets to more detailed explorations for those willing to go deeper. Our focus in this article is elsewhere. Many faculty are already taking part in stimulating conversations about the full impact of the recent developments in AI, both with colleagues and students. Students in particular have raised concerns about what jobs will remain for them in a world where various out-of-the-box AI tools can do a lot of the work that they were planning to train to do. Some of us are worried about the emotional and mental health implications of replacing casual as well as pedagogically motivated human-to-human interactions with conversations with robotic minds. Many question the resource burdens of these tools, including but not limited to increased energy use, direct and indirect environmental impacts of increased energy use, and the resulting decrease in the quality of human and non-human life on Earth. More directly related to the work of mathematics instruction, a handful of folks have raised questions about how AI can take away the agency of the learner if we let it, how learning with AI might lead to loss of certain basic skill sets traditionally viewed to be fundamental, and whether or not that is an acceptable trade-off. We do not dive into these topics here, even as we find them most provocative and worthy of further deliberation. We believe that the role of this article is much more straightforward. In particular, we focus on our interactions with these new technologies as mathematicians, mathematics instructors, and educators. To that end, we investigate three specific ethical considerations that have been regularly brought up in relation to mathematics instruction, guiding our readers through a comprehensive exploration of the complexities involved and articulating how they relate to some of the enduring principles of good mathematics pedagogy. First, we bring up the ubiquitous concern of educators about academic integrity. Next, we explore the concerns about access and equity raised by many scholars. Finally, we discuss a cluster of ethical considerations involving the use of generative AI in relation to privacy, data security, and intellectual property rights. Our main goal throughout is to emphasize the importance of proactive engagement by mathematics faculty as this brave new world unfolds in front of our eyes. There are currently many questions and uncertainties in relation to generative AI, but one thing is certain, and that is that things are evolving very rapidly. Yes, you can say that again. By the time this article goes into print, many of the specifics we discuss here could be obsolete. However, we believe that even as the specific capabilities and limitations of these new technologies evolve, the central ethical questions we pose will remain significant and essential for us to tackle. In what follows, we often use the term AI to refer specifically to generative AI technologies reflecting their widespread adoption and current prominence in academic and public discourse. Given its popularity and illustrative capabilities, we use ChatGPT as our primary example of such AI throughout this discussion. This choice aims to streamline our narrative and focus on pertinent ethical considerations. Academic integrity. Will my students use generative AI to cheat, and can I do anything to stop them? What the authors did not write here is, should I do anything to stop them, or should I modify my class accordingly? The authors write, OpenAI announced its launch of ChatGPT on November 30th, 2022. Within a week, folks declared the death of the college essay. Therefore, most naturally, the initial reaction of most educators to the generative AI boom of recent years involves concern about academic integrity. Whenever we mention we're leading workshops on generative AI and its uses in the mathematics classroom, we receive questions that are basically simple variations on the theme of, will my students use generative AI to cheat, and can I do anything to stop them? Even before the arrival of these newcomers, mathematics instructors were already living in the world of math, Stack Exchange, Math Overflow, and Chegg, where students could, with a few clicks of a mouse or a few swipes on a phone, obtain solutions to many standard homework assignments. We had already adjusted and adapted to the computational knowledge engine Wolfram Alpha, and before that, the electronic calculator. However, generative AI tools today do not only answer a lot of the homework questions you can assign, but they can also explain with examples if a student needs further explanation or needs to show their work. One such tool, Motion Shark, claims, for example, that it will generate individualized videos for your math problem. And these friendly tools always answer with cheer and complete confidence. However, their clear and clean prose occasionally contains subtle errors. Students may or may not be able to evaluate the veracity of the answer they receive. Even so, many students will use these tools simply because they're available. So what should an instructor do? We have adapted to previous technological advances by carefully weighing what we want our students to learn and what means of assessing this learning make the most sense given the capabilities of whatever tools students can access. For example, it seems that we have as a community decided that learning the basic 10 by 10 multiplication table is a good idea for younger students and that they should be able to do some basic arithmetic on their own using paper and pencil so that they understand the meaning of the operations and develop a flexible number sense. But that older students can use calculators for most of the arithmetic in their math homework as our emphasis at that later stage moves on to higher level mathematical thinking. It makes sense to reevaluate what the analogous revisions will entail at this juncture. We need to determine for ourselves and our community what the essential skills every student needs to develop are and what can be regularly delegated to an external agent, be it a trusty graphing calculator or a chatty bot. These determinations will require thoughtful conversations as well as detailed explorations of the capabilities of the extant tools. But even before all that happens, we want to offer some ideas to those instructors teaching today. First, if you view the use of these tools as inappropriate in your class, you should let your students know. Just as with the websites mentioned above, some students will still use them even if they are told not to, but it is essential to make your expectations clear about what's okay to use and what's not. That means put it in your syllabus and discuss it with your students often. Your classroom policy could, for example, assert that covert use of ChatGPT or other AI for certain assignments will constitute a violation of academic integrity. Or you might choose an embrace and disclose approach, where the use of AI tools is openly acknowledged, discussed, and examined. You might also decide to go hybrid, allowing certain tools for specific contexts and not for others. In either case, we suggest the inclusion of an explicit statement in your syllabi to the effect of, it is your responsibility, not the tools, to ensure the quality, integrity, and accuracy of work you submit in any college course. Banning these tools outright, especially without convincing justification, is not going to work. I agree with that 100%. These tools are ubiquitous, and many of your students are already using them. It is also not a good idea to completely ignore the topic and never bring it up in your classes. In short, we strongly urge faculty members to discuss with students the capabilities and the limitations of these tools and explain to them what the goals of the course are, which of these goals a specific assignment targets, and how the use of a particular AI tool might scaffold productively or hinder inadvertently the learning that is intended. As we write this article, more and more standard platforms are integrating AI tools so that a student using GitHub to code may seamlessly use GitHub Copilot, or a student using Microsoft Word might unintentionally incorporate into their writing sentences suggested by the built-in Copilot. These tools will eventually become as second nature as built-in autocorrect/grammar checks. We need to be aware of this possibility as we design our AI policy and clarify for our students and ourselves where to draw a line and why, keeping in mind that for the foreseeable future this line will likely be in constant motion. In short, we believe that giving students the whole picture must be a part of any instructor's AI policy. Students should be made aware that certain uses of AI may lead to better immediate outcomes but to poorer learning and retention, that occasionally AI might mislead them to incorrect and incomplete answers, and that as the human in the loop it is always their responsibility to understand and be accountable for whatever they submit as their own work. Of course, some students may still choose the less honorable path. In that scenario, many instructors who use essay-based assignments turn to tools marketed as AI detection software. I'm rolling my eyes here. The jury is still out on whether these are any better at detection than human readers, and there is enough evidence to show that even human detection is quite fallible, especially if the student knows what they are doing and is proficient at using the myriad tools out there to further humanize their AI output text. In mathematics instruction, these detection tools are even less applicable. We are better off trying to ward off possible misconduct ahead of time by the way we design our courses, assignments, and other assessments than trying to police student activity during or after the fact. In other words, abolishing cheating means working to create environments and provide resources that would help make cheating unnecessary or unthinkable in the first place. Yes, these authors get it. For example, it might be worth considering your overall grading methodology. Perhaps a more process-focused grading schematic may lead to less pressure for students to cheat. Alternative assessment schemes like standards-based grading or ungrading come to mind. For more ideas, they give some references. Access and equity. Who gets to use which AI? Equity and equality are two key concepts discussed in educational policies and practices in relation to one another. This relationship is often illustrated by two side-by-side images of three individuals trying to watch a sports game over a tall fence. They include the well-known meme where if everybody stands on the same box, then the little kid can't see, etc. Figure 1 illustrating equality versus equity, 2016. You can tell it's an academic paper when they carefully place a date on the meme images. In the first image, the authors continue, each individual is given a standard-sized box to stand on. The tallest person can comfortably see over the fence while standing on their box. The second person, being somewhat shorter, can barely view the game. The third person, the shortest, is unable to see the game at all due to their height. This scene represents equality where everyone is treated the same. Each person receives the same support and resources. In the next frame, the arrangement of the boxes is tailored to each person's need. The shortest person receives two boxes stacked on top of each other, enabling them to see over the fence. The middle person has one box, while the tallest person does not need any box to see the game. This frame illustrates equity, where individuals are provided with the specific resources they need to succeed, acknowledging that everyone's circumstances differ. The juxtaposition of these two frames underscores the importance of recognizing individual needs in the pursuit of equity and promoting the use of tailored resources to ensure fair opportunities for all. Interestingly, access to AI fails in both categories of equity and equality. First and foremost, there is an issue of equality. When ChatGPT 3.5 was released in November 2022, it was freely available, which seemed like equality. Everyone had equal access to the same platform. However, the situation shifted in March 2023 when the more advanced ChatGPT 4.0 was introduced at a cost of $20 per month. This caused two major issues. First, it created an equality issue, creating a clear disparity between those of means and those not. Secondly, and more subtly, the superior capabilities of ChatGPT 4.0 remained largely unrecognized by many academics who were previously unimpressed by the limitations of the free version, so they thought they were safe. As a result, they ignored the updated model despite its significant improvements. Incidentally, when I was a math TA, this is Samuel speaking, this isn't the authors. When I was a math TA, we could put our names down on an official department department promoted list of tutors and offer our services, our tutoring services to students. And as far as I'm aware, there was no special program to give that type of free tutoring to poor students. Of course, as part of our job, we did give free tutoring to the whole body of students, but I'm talking about one-on-one individual tutoring for which money was charged. I'm merely saying this to point out that this sort of thing existed before ChatGPT came onto the scene. Anyway, the authors continue saying, however, those who were aware and could afford the monthly fee for ChatGPT 4.0 quickly discovered its impressive enhancements. This version boasted improved accuracy, enhanced contextual understanding, multimodal capabilities, and superior logical and mathematical processing. Despite occasional errors and hallucinations, the improvements in performance were substantial and marked a significant leap forward in capability. This tiered access situation highlights a significant issue with AI use in mathematics education: equity in access. Imagine a scenario where a project requires the use of AI tools. Some students having the financial means might use a premium version, whereas others might only have access to a free version. This disparity is similar to having some calculus students use a TI-92, the first calculator with a computer algebra system, while their peers make do with basic scientific calculators. Some institutions are addressing these disparities by implementing a campus-wide AI platform that retains data internally, a strategy known as the walled garden approach. This approach creates a controlled digital ecosystem that restricts access to external resources and data exchanges, enhancing privacy and security. Notable examples include Arizona State University and Columbia University, which have partnered with OpenAI to establish such ecosystems. Meanwhile, the University of Michigan has developed its own walled garden, prioritizing privacy, accessibility, and affordability for its students. Although the walled garden approach presents a potential solution to issues of equitable access, it's important to recognize that not all systems offer the same capabilities. Different AI platforms excel in different areas, which can lead to disparities in resource quality. For instance, a student with access to a variety of premium AI platforms is likely to have a more comprehensive set of tools than a peer confined to a single walled garden system. We have observed this disparity firsthand having had the opportunity to utilize multiple paid platforms for various academic purposes in our work. Such uneven distribution of access can unfairly benefit some students over others in assignments and assessments, a significant issue that requires attention and resolution. Even if we could magically provide every student with the same level of AI resources, true equity would still not be achieved. We would only reach the basic level of equality discussed earlier. So the other essential consideration is equity. We have observed that the ability to use AI varies widely among students. Some are only capable of elementary copy and paste interactions with AI, a strategy often described as the centaur model, which delineates a clear division of labor between humans and AI. If your assignments can be answered in this way, you should reconsider what you are assigning and your learning objectives. Yes. However, some students have advanced prompting skills that can make AI very productive, thus deserving the label of cyborgs. The cyborg model represents a more integrated approach where human and AI efforts are closely intertwined. To address disparities in AI access and utilization effectively, faculty should consider several practical steps. First, evaluate the AI resources available to students, ensuring equitable access. Design assignments that do not disproportionately favor those with advanced tools, focusing instead on critical thinking and understanding. Yes, this will take time and collaboration. Model how to use AI effectively in the classroom, offering tips, suggestions, and demonstrations to help level the playing field for all students. Encourage a collaborative classroom culture where students share AI resources and strategies. Continuously monitor the effectiveness of these strategies and adjust as necessary, fostering a more equitable and inclusive learning environment. By embracing these practices, we can mitigate the impact of AI disparities and support a fair educational experience for all students. Intellectual property, copyright issues, privacy, security, oh my. In December 2023, the New York Times filed a suit against OpenAI and Microsoft for copyright infringement, charging that millions of articles published by the Times were used to train automated chatbots that now compete with the news outlet as a source of reliable information. Coming close on the heels of a similar suit by a group of writers, the Times case got everyone from copyright lawyers to research librarians weighing in on the matter. More recently, the academic publishing giant Taylor & Francis faced a backlash for selling access to its academic journals, a catalog portfolio that features several mathematics journals, including those published by the MAA, to Microsoft for $10 million plus additional recurring payments over 3 years. Authors and editors were not consulted on this decision and will not see any profit from it. For context for the people listening on YouTube, authors of mathematics papers do not see any profit for their math papers anyway, whether from them being sold by Taylor & Francis or otherwise. The authors continue saying, when viewed in conjunction with the publisher's own relatively relaxed policy on AI use, one wonders if we will soon be facing a situation in which AI is writing content and then feeding it back into itself as training material. Bertrand Russell, at least, would be pleased. That's a reference to Bertrand Russell's self-referential paradox. Besides the question of what material is used to train models underlying generative AI, there is the question of who owns AI-generated content. Traditional intellectual property law recognizes the creator of a work as its owner, as long as that creator is human. A generative AI platform is not human, obviously, but its users are. Who owns the cute image of a hobbit that took many hours of careful prompt engineering to produce? The prompter, who is also one of the authors of this article? The thousands of unnamed artists whose work was used to train the bot that produced it? OpenAI? Nobody? According to the US Congress, it's complicated. These high-level considerations suggest more immediate and practical concerns for AI use in educational settings, some of which have been explored in the previous sections of this article. In addition, faculty and administration must concern themselves with privacy issues. While data privacy has long been a concern in education, this new generation of AI tools simultaneously lowers the bar and raises the stakes. With their capability to collect and process huge amounts of student data, ostensibly to enhance and personalize learning, these platforms also open a door to the misuse of sensitive academic and personal information. How is such data being stored? Who has access to it? And with what permissions? What does consent look like in this context? The intersection of generative AI with intellectual property rights and data privacy contains more questions than answers, at least right now. The walled garden approach described earlier in Part 3 notwithstanding, most institutions of higher education have yet to develop a consistent and comprehensive policy regarding the use of student data in relation to AI-based tools and platforms. Thus, as is so often the case in situations where our understanding is incomplete and our policies undeveloped, awareness is key. Pay attention, weigh possible consequences, and make a judgment based on the best available information in each individual situation. The goal should be to strike a balance between risk and reward and to optimize the educational benefits. Conclusion and future directions. As poets and prophets tell us, there is usually nothing new under the sun. That's, of course, a reference to the book of Ecclesiastes by the prophet Solomon. Approximately 17 years ago, Karaali and Yoshiwara wrote, "Once again, a new technology raises questions about how we run our classes, how we plan our curricula, and how we use tools to enhance learning." Back then, the new technology was Wolfram Alpha. Today, we're asking similar questions about a new wave of technological advances. It's true, in other words, that we mathematics instructors have prior experience with handling disruptive effects of new technology in our teaching practices. And, as we've aimed to show in this article, many of the standard ethical concerns brought up about the impact of this new generation of AI-based tools are familiar to us and can be adjusted to various degrees of effectiveness with the guidance of good pedagogical principles such as student agency, equity, and transparency. However, as we have also tried to clarify, the particular challenges we're facing today are also in some ways qualitatively different. Whereas students who chose to cheat in the past were usually quite aware that they were cheating, with the integration of AI-driven tools into mainstream software that students use, it'll be quite challenging to determine where to draw the line about academic integrity. Furthermore, the ease of access to the basic models and the sliding scale tiered access model for higher quality performance raise significant questions about equity at a time where our students are the most diverse in terms of socioeconomic status. Adding to that, the disparity among students as well as faculty in terms of basic computer AI literacy, we can see that indeed there is more work to be done. Considering that the enthusiasm of businesses across industries to adopt these technologies will have a significant impact on the future of jobs and prospective quality of life of our students, it's imperative that we be proactive. Our students need to be prepared to navigate this new AI landscape responsibly and critically. Just as the advent of the personal computer led to computer literacy courses in the college curriculum, we soon might see calls for courses on AI literacy, where students will be trained to develop the knowledge and skills necessary to understand, interact with, and make informed decisions about AI. Of course, teaching students how to use AI has never been in the job description of any mathematics instructor, and we are not trying to write new job descriptions for anyone. But it is indeed our duty to teach students about the proper use and applicability of new tools and technologies in our discipline. We believe that equity, in particular, is a serious concern and that in order to address disparities in AI access effectively, there should be institutional action. We believe institutions should establish ongoing inclusive advisory panels that include instructors, students, and administrative staff. These panels would not only help select suitable AI tools, but also develop and continuously update AI literacy curricula to keep pace with technological advancements. This proactive, adaptive approach can ensure that AI education remains relevant and responsive to the evolving needs of all stakeholders, making it a continuous rather than a one-time effort. Educators and policymakers alike need to recognize and address the access and equity challenges of AI. The disparities in AI models available and differing levels of student proficiency in their use require careful planning in how we design courses and distribute resources. We need to create an environment where all students, regardless of their financial means or prior experience with technology, can competently engage with AI. Institutions need to incorporate AI literacy into their curricula via specific courses or other means, so as to ensure that students are not only adept at using these tools, but also are aware of their limitations and biases. As mathematics instructors, we can do our part by determining how these tools can productively interact with our discipline and helping our students meet the challenges of such interactions. Our commitment to our students and their competent training will level the playing field and empower them to navigate and shape the future responsibly. The privacy and security concerns we discussed will also need policy-driven action. Once again, as individual instructors, the first step should be awareness. We all need to pay attention, weigh possible consequences, and make a judgment based on the best available information in each individual situation. However, we also need to think of the big picture and demand and work towards policy-level solutions. We hope that this article will help encourage readers to initiate or join the AI conversation in their own institutions and the professional societies they engage with. Unlike our colleagues in the humanities and the social sciences, we've already had the experience of having to re-envision our teaching goals and assessment methods when faced with the advent of technological disruption. As such, we can share our past experiences and support these colleagues as we all work to figure out our way forward. Let us end with a few words about practical steps readers can take. To make informed decisions about generative AI in relation to their teaching, faculty members need first-hand experience with these technologies. Drawing on Ethan Mollick's insights, we advocate playing with any one generative AI platform for a minimum of 10 hours. This duration, akin to the concept of taking 10,000 steps daily for health, is suggested not because it is a magic number, but because it provides substantial engagement, which in our experience is enough for most users to transition from superficial tinkering to meaningful exploration. This is incidentally a fantastic idea. Probably all my listeners have already done this, but if you haven't, if you happen to be living under a rock, yes, go play with AI and see what it's actually about. The authors continue saying, by directly experimenting with AI via a range of tasks, including specific teaching and learning tasks, educators can critically assess its practical capabilities and limitations. This depth of understanding is crucial for making educated choices about what role one might wish AI to play in one's classroom. In the introduction, we hinted that these tools and platforms are developing at a really fast pace. One might therefore wonder if it's worth engaging with any one platform at any given time, as things will certainly change. We wholeheartedly believe that yes, it is worth it. Just pick one and dive right in. Yes, things will continue to change, but by putting in the effort now, you can gain a foundational understanding and familiarity with these tools. This knowledge will be invaluable as you encounter new and more advanced members of the generative AI family in the coming months and years. So where do you start? Consider the excellent resource, etc. They list some various resources. I'm Dr. Samuel Alan Alexander, mathematician and philosopher, and this was Who's Afraid of Generative AI? Ethical Considerations for Mathematics Instructors. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.